Okay, we can start now. Hello, everyone. I am Editor Baswaro. Good afternoon to all of you and welcome again to the Combinatorics Today Series. It's our great pleasure to see you again in this wonderful occasion in healthy condition. This event or this edition is the first edition of this year for our Combinatorics Today Series, and I would like to announce that this year we will have 11 editions altogether. Of course, allow me to thanks to the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences for the continuous support and the encouragement in conducting this event. And I'm deeply thankful that through this series, we could present prominent combinatorists from all over the world to present the current and updated development of our fields with combinatoric and graph theory. And today, we have
Pak Edi?
Pak Edi, yeah.
I think he's disconnected. Pak Edi?
Yeah. Hello. Oh dear.
Halo Pak Edi.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, you're back.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, so again, hello, Professor Sanming. How are you today?
Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So, thank you very much for your kindness to willing to give talk in this conference or in this series. So today, Dr. Renovia will chair this session. And before I let Dr. Renovia chair the session, I would like ask Ibu Prita to have a group photo. Okay. Please, Prita.
Please turn on the camera, the video. I will take the picture. Okay, let's wait for a moment so you can start this camera. Okay, I will take the first page. 1, 2, 3. Wait a moment. Okay, now let's turn the. You can now turn the video. Turn off. Thank you.
Okay, then thank you, Prita. And now I let Dr. Renovia to chair this session. Please, Reno.
Ya, thank you Pak Edi. Selamat sore Bapak Ibu. Good evening to Sanming. Is it already? What time is it now in Melbourne?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so good afternoon, maybe good evening, good morning to all the participants of today Combinatorial Today Series, Combinatorics Today Series. It is my honor to introduce our speaker today. So I will just share my screen. So our speaker today is Professor Sanming Zhou from the University of Melbourne, Australia. He graduated with his PhD from the University of Western Australia. And since then, he started his academic career in the University of Melbourne. His research interest is graph theory, especially in algebraic graph theory and also in network optimization. And he was awarded by the ICA, the Institute of Combinatorics and its Applications, the Kirkman Medal in 2003. And he also have the Future Fellowship from the Australian Research Council from 2012 until 2015. He was also the editor-in-chief of the Australasian Journal of Combinatorics, and he was also the president, and before that, the vice president of the CMSA, the Combinatorial Mathematics Society of Australia, Australasia actually. Okay. Today, Sanmin will talk about the nowhere zero three flows conjecture. Is it conjecture or not? Nowhere zeros three flows in vertex-transitive graphs. So please, Sanmin, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Rilo, for your kind introduction, and thank you, Eddie, for your invitation. I'm going to talk about some recent and not so recent results on nowhere zero flows in vertex-transitive graphs. Okay, suppose we have a digraph D and a D. Now, suppose we assign a group element of A to every arc of D. So we have a function f from the arc set of D to the abelian group A. Sorry, this is into the A, not D, not G. Now, such that at every vector V, the total flow into V is equal to the total flow given from V. Okay. Now, this means that the sum of the group elements assigned to those arcs into V is equal to the sum of the total elements on the arcs going out from V. Now, this is required for every vector V. Okay. Now, of course, this sigma is taken in the abelian group A. So it's a group operation. Okay. Now, if this condition is satisfied, then we call F a circulation in D over abelian group A. Okay. Now, if FA is non-zero for every arc A, then we call a nowhere zero circulation in D over A. Okay. So basically, you just assign a group element to every arc in a digraph D, such that the balance is kept at every vertex. Okay. If this is the case, then you obtain a circulation in D over A. Now, normally we require the circulation to be nowhere zero, which means that you never assign zero to any arc. Okay. Now, it's interesting to notice that whether a digraph that means a lower zero circulation over a given RBD group depends only on its underlying undirected graph. Okay. Now, equivalently, this means that if you start with an undirected graph gamma, and if you arrange gamma in any way you want. Okay. Okay. Now, if such an orientation admits a lower zero circulation over A, then all circulations of gamma also admit a lower zero circulation. Okay. So this is equivalent to saying that either all orientations of gamma admit a lower zero circulation over A, or no of them admits a lower zero circulation over A. So this property is based on properties of undirected graphs. Okay? Although the definition of circulation was made on directed graphs. Okay? So we can talk about lower zero circulations in graphs instead of directed graphs. Okay? Now, Hart proved that a plane digraph is k-phase colorable if and only if it admits a lower zero circulation over Zk. So because of this, we can restate the famous four-color theorem as follows. Every planar graph admits a lower zero circulation over Z4. Okay. So this is a equivalent statement of the four-color theorem using the language of lower zero circulations. Now, normally we take our RBD group to be the group of integers Z. Okay. In this case, a lower circulation over Z is called a lower zero K flow. Okay. So a lower zero K flow is just a mapping F from the arc set of D to the set of integers, okay, such that the balance is kept at every vertex and zero is not used. Okay. So and also we need the flow value on every arc is between negative k minus 1 to positive k minus 1, okay, except zero. Okay. Now in the rest of this talk, when I say integer flow, I mean a lower zero integer flow. So we always assume that we don't use zero. Okay, so from now on, I'm going to just talk about lower zero integer flows. Okay, where the underlying RBD group is just Z. Okay. Now Tart proved that a graph admits a K flow if and only if it admits a lower zero circulation over Zk. So this means that you can also use Zk instead of Z. Okay, when you talk about lower zero integer flows. Okay. With this, we can restate the four-color theorem again. Every planar graph admits a four flow. Okay. Now let's look at an example. The famous Peterson graph admits a five flow. Okay. Now to prove this, we just need to find out a lower zero flow in the Peterson graph. Okay. Now for this purpose, let's just orient the Peterson graph in any way you want, like this. And then we assign an integer from 1 to 4, okay, to the arcs of this orientation. Okay. So this is the assignment of integers to the arcs of this particular orientation of Peterson graph. Now you can easily check that at each vertex, the balance is kept, which means that the total flow into the vertex is equal to the total flow leaving from the same vertex modulo 5. Okay, modulo 5. Okay. So if you look at this vertex, for example, the top vertex, it receives 1 plus 2 units flow. Okay, it sends out 3 units flow, so balance is kept. If you look at this vertex, you have 1 plus 1, and then you have two units flow leaving from this vertex. So you can check that the balance is kept everywhere. Okay, so indeed this is a nowhere 0 5 flow. Okay. We say a graph is even if every vertex has an even degree. It's very easy to see that a graph admits a 2 flow if and only if it's even. So when you have 2 flow, basically you just use 1. Okay, just use 1. Okay, and you take module 2. Okay, so if a graph has 2 flow, then it must be even. Okay, okay, and the converse is also true. Now, also, it's not difficult to prove that a 2H collected cubic graph admits a 3 flow if and only if it's bipartite. Okay. Okay. Now, from 1950s to early 1970s, Hart made 3 very famous conjectures on integer flows. Okay. Now, the 5-flow conjecture says that every 2H collected graph admits a 5 flow. Okay. This conjecture is still open. Okay. Now, the first breakthrough was made by Zhou in late 1970s. He proved that every 2H collected graph admits an 8 flow. Okay. Now, the conjecture was such a graph should have a 5 flow. Okay. And then 2 years later, Paul Seymour proved that every 2H collected graph admits a 6 flow. This result is still the best result for the 5-flow conjecture. Okay. Now, the 4-flow conjecture says that every 2H collected graph with no Peterson graph minor admits a 4 flow. Okay. Now, this was confirmed for cubic graphs by Robson, Sanders, Seymour, and Thomas. Okay. Now, the best result on this conjecture for general graphs was proved by Zhou again. He proved that every 4H connected graph admits a 4 flow. So the 4 flow is the same, but he requires a higher H connectivity. Okay? The conjecture is that whenever a graph is 2H connected with no Peterson graph minor, then the graph should have a 4 flow. Okay. Now he required that the graph is 4H connected. Okay. Now the 3-flow conjecture says that every 4H connected graph admits a 3 flow. Okay. So in the rest of my talk, I'm going to focus on the 3-flow conjecture. Okay. Now this was a breakthrough made by Thomason more than 10 years ago now. He proved that every 8H connected graph admits a 3 flow. Okay. Now again, he required a higher H connectivity. The conjecture required 4H connectivity. Okay, the graph to be 4H connected, but in this result, Thomason required the graph to be H connected. Okay. On this condition, the graph should have a 3 flow. And soon after Thomason's result, this was improved like this. Okay, so the H connectivity was reduced from 8 to 6. Okay, this is the best general result for the 3-flow conjecture so far. Okay. Now I'm going to focus on 2 versions of the 3-flow conjectures, namely the Keahlian version and vertex-transitive graph version. Okay. So for this purpose, I will review some basic definitions on graph symmetry. Okay. Now suppose gamma is graph and G is a subgroup of the outermost group of gamma. Now, if G is transitive on the vertex of gamma, then gamma is called G vertex-transitive. Now, this basically means that, given any two vertices of gamma, I can always find an automorphism from G, which maps the first vertex to second vertex. So intuitively, this means that all vertices in gamma have the same status. Okay? So this is vertex-transitivity. Okay? Now, similarly, if G is transitive on the set of edges of gamma, then gamma is called G edge-transitive. Okay? And if G is transitive on the set of arcs of gamma, then gamma is G arc-transitive, where the arc is just an oriented edge, okay? Or an ordered pair of adjacent vertices. Okay? Now, if there exists a subgroup G of outer gamma, which is vertex-transitive and or edge-transitive or arc-transitive, then we call gamma vertex-transitive or edge-transitive or arc-transitive, respectively. Okay? Now, this is the Keahlian graph. Now, we can see that A5, the alternating group A5, is a subgroup of the outermost group of the Keahlian graph. Okay? And A5 is transitive on the set of arcs of this graph. So the Keahlian graph is A5 arc-transitive. Now, of course, if a graph is arc-transitive, we require vertex-transitive as well as part of the definition. But if a graph is just edge-transitive, it may not be vertex-transitive. And if a graph is vertex-transitive, it may not be edge-transitive. Now, this is the motivation for us to study three flows in vertex-transitive graphs. This is the old result, which says that every vertex-transitive graph with degree D is DH connected. So if you combine this with Carter's three-flow conjecture, okay, for vertex-transitive graphs, we obtain the vertex-transitive graph version of the three-flow conjecture. Okay? Yeah. Whenever your vertex-transitive graph is D regular, is DH connected, right? So if D is greater or equal to 4, then by Tartle conjecture, such a vertex-transitive graph should admit a three-flow. Okay, so this is a special case of Tartle's three-flow conjecture applied to vertex-transitive graphs. Okay? As long as a vertex-transitive graph has degree at least 4, it should contain a three-flow. Okay? Now, because of this breakthrough, we can just focus on the case when D is equal to 5. If D is 6 or larger, then the vertex-transitive graph is 6H connected. And therefore, by this result, the vertex-transitive graph should have a three-flow. Right? So we can, focus on the case when the vertex-transitive graph has degree 5. Okay. Well, if the degree is 4, then the result is true. Yeah. If you have an even degree, you can always have a three-flow, because an even graph has a two-flow, while a two-flow can also be considered as a three-flow. Okay. Now, this is the Keahlian version of the three-flow conjecture. Now, the definition of a Keahlian graph is shown here. So we start with a group G and an inverse closed subset S of G minus identity element. And then we can define the Keahlian graph on G with respect to S to be the graph with vertex set G, such that two elements of G are adjacent if and only if this continuum holds. So basically, this means that every element Y of G is adjacent to an element of S times X. Okay? So these are labels of each element Y. Okay? Now, all Keahlian graphs are vertex-transitive, actually. Well, the group G acts on itself by right multiplication, and this action is regular, and it preserves the adjacent relation. So the orthomorphism group of this Keahlian graph contains a subgroup which is isomorphic to G. Okay, and G is transitive on the vertex set of this Keahlian graph. Okay. The Keahlian version of the three-flow conjecture says that every Keahlian graph of degree at least 4 admits a three-flow. Now again, to prove this, we just need to consider Keahlian graphs of degree 5. Okay. Now there are some results about the three-flow conjecture in Keahlian graphs. Okay. Some special families of groups. Okay. The first special family of groups considered is the family of abelian groups. Okay. It was proved that every Keahlian graph of degree at least 4 on a finite abelian group admits a three-flow. Now this basically means that Carter's three-flow conjecture holds for Keahlian graphs on abelian groups. Okay. Now this result was generalized to Keahlian graphs on nilpotent groups. Okay, well, abelian groups are nilpotent, but the converse is also true. So the second result is stronger than the first one. Okay. Now Keahlian graphs on dihedral groups with at least degree at least 4 admit a three-flow. This was proved by 2 Chinese mathematicians in 2011. Okay. So in other words, for Keahlian graphs on dihedral groups, Carter's three-flow conjecture is true. Okay. Now for generalized dihedral groups, we have a similar result. Okay. A generalized dihedral group is just a finite group, which is the semi-direct product of a normal abelian subgroup of G and Z2. Okay. So this result says that Carter's three-flow conjecture is true for Keahlian graphs on generalized dihedral groups. Okay. For generalized quaternion groups, we have the same result. Okay. This was proved by Li and Li, the same author as the previous result in 2015. Okay. For generalized dicyclic groups, we have the same result. Okay. So yeah, for all Keahlian graphs of degree at least 4 on generalized dihedral groups, okay, you can always find a three-flow. Okay. Okay. Well, very recently, Zhou proved that Carter's three-flow conjecture is true for Keahlian graphs on a finite group whose order is a prime times a prime square. Okay. Yeah. Now, of course, we always require such Keahlian graph to have degree at least 4, yeah, as a conjecture, as in the original conjecture. Oh. Okay. So Carter's three-flow conjecture is true for Keahlian graphs of groups of order P, Q square, where P and Q are primes. Well, abelian groups are nilpotent, and nilpotent groups are solvable. So we may wonder whether we can prove part of three-flow conjecture for Keahlian graphs on solvable groups. Okay. Now, a solvable group is a group such that there's a sequence of subgroups like this, such that GI-1 is normal in GI, and this quotient group, okay, is abelian for every I. Okay. Now again, to solve this problem, which I did consider case when the degree of the Keahlian graph is 5. Okay. Now this problem is still open. Okay. But recently, we have done some results on Keahlian graphs over soup-solvable groups. Now, the definition of a soup-solvable group is given here. Okay. Now, this time we require this quotient group to be cyclic. So all soup-solvable groups are solvable, but converse is not true. So this is a prop subfamily of the family of solvable groups. Okay. Now, the derived subgroup of any group G is just a subgroup G generated by all commutators like this. Now, usually we write the derived group of G by G prime. Okay. Now we prove the following two results. Okay. The first result says that every connected Keahlian graph of degree at least 4 on any soup-solvable group with a non-cyclic 0-2 subgroup has a 3 flow. Okay. So this is about a family of Keahlian graphs on soup-solvable groups. Okay. Now we need an extra condition. We need such a group to have a non-cyclic 0-2 subgroup. Okay. We don't know how to remove this condition. Okay. Now the second result here says every Keahlian graph of degree is 4 on any group whose derived subgroup is of square-free order should have a 3 flow. Now, any group with derived subgroup of square-free order must be soup-solvable. So in the second result, the group involved is also soup-solvable. Okay? So this is another family of Keahlian graphs over soup-solvable groups. Okay. Assuming that there's a question. Okay. Well, actually, we proved these results for Keahlian multigraphs. Okay. Now, to obtain a Keahlian multigraph, you allow S to contain multiple elements. So, okay. So we prove these results by induction on the order of G. Well, normal quotients play an important role in our proof. Okay. Now we use this result by 2 Slovakian mathematicians. Now suppose G is a finite group and N is a normal subgroup G. Now suppose the connecting set S of a Keahlian multigraph is disjoint from N. Okay. Now if this quotient graph contains a K flow, then the original Keahlian graph admits a K flow. Now this quotient K graph is defined on the quotient group G over N. Okay, so you just take modulo N. Okay, then you obtain a quotient group, and also you take modulo N every element of S to obtain S over N. Now this defines a KD graph over the quotient group. Okay, and if this quotient group means a K flow, then the original group, if this quotient KD graph means a K flow, then the original KD graph means a K flow. Okay, another key part of the proof is to understand three flows in what we call generalized closed ladders. Okay, now this is the definition of a quotient graph with respect to a partition of the vertex set. Okay, so basically, if you have a partition of the vertex set of graph gamma, then you can obtain, a quotient graph whose vertex set is just the set of paths in the partition. Okay, two paths are adjacent even only if there is at least one edge between them in the original graph. Okay, now in particular, if between two adjacent blocks you have a T regular bipartite graph, then we call this quotient graph we call the original graph a multi-cover of the quotient graph. Okay. Now, in particular, if T is 1, you obtain a cover like this. Okay. Now, it's not difficult to prove that if a graph admits a K flow, then its multi-covers also admits a K flow. Okay. So this lemma allows us to make use of multi-covers, okay, which are multi-covered by the original graph. Okay. Well, if gamma is a G vertex-transitive graph, okay, and N is a normal subgroup G, then we can partition the vertex of gamma, namely G, into N orbits. Okay, so we can define the quotient graph, okay, with respect to this partition. Now, this is what we call a normal quotient. Okay, now it's easy to prove this lemma. Okay, if gamma is connected G vertex-transitive graph and N is a normal subgroup G, which is intransitive on the vertex of gamma, then the normal quotient is also vertex-transitive with respect to this normal quotient group. Okay. Now, if two paths of this normal partition are adjacent, then the bipartite graph between them is a regular subgraph of gamma. Sorry. Now, if in addition gamma is G arc-transitive, then this normal quotient is also arc-transitive, and gamma is a multi-cover of the normal quotient. Okay. Now, as I said, we also use generalized ladders in our proof. Now, by a circular ladder, we mean a ladder, a graph obtained by a ladder by identifying this color A with this color A, and this color B with this color B. So just identify A and A, B and B on the left-hand side picture. Okay, then you obtain a circular ladder. Now, if you traced this ladder and then you identify A with A, on the right-hand side, and B with B on the right-hand side, you obtain a Mobius ladder. Okay. Okay. Now, by a closed ladder, I mean a circular ladder or a Mobius ladder. Now, if you subdivide the reals of these ladders, then you obtain a generalized closed ladder. So this red dots are new vertices. Okay, you just insert some new vertices on real edges. Okay, not wrongs. Okay, then you obtain generalized closed letters. Okay. Now we also have this problem for vertex-transitive graphs, which means a solvable vertex-transitive group. Okay. Okay. Now, of course, this is a special case of pattern free-flow conjecture. Again, we need to consider such vertex-transitive graphs with degree 5 only. Yeah, we can't solve that problem. Yeah, it's too hard for us. But we obtain some weaker result. It turns out that if we require our graph to be G arc-transitive, where G is a solvable group, then the result is true. Okay. So we prove the following. Okay. Suppose G is a finite solvable group, and gamma is a G arc-transitive graph with degree at least 4. Then gamma is a free flow. Okay. Now this is actually equivalent to this result here. Okay, it's because any G arc-transitive graph is G vertex-transitive, and any G vertex-transitive and G H-transitive graph with odd order is G arc-transitive. So this result is equivalent to the first one. Okay, if G is a solvable group, then every G vertex-transitive and G H-transitive graph with degree is 4 means a free flow. Okay. Well, if the degree is 4, then the graph has a 2 flow, and any 2 flow is also a 3 flow, so the result is true. Now, if the degree is 86, the result is also true. So we just need to prove the result for such graphs with degree 5. But in our proof, we don't require this actually. We don't focus on, we don't need our graph to have degree 5. Now we proved the following claim. Okay? If G is solvable, then every G arc-transitive graph with degree at least 4 and not divisible by 3, that means a 3 flow. So we just need the degree of such a graph is not a divisible by 3. Okay, it's not a multiple of 3. Okay, now of course 5 is not a multiple of 3, so we are done if we can prove this claim. Now to prove this result, we need some properties of solvable groups. So let's first define G0 to be G, G1 to be the derived subgroup G. Now in general, we define Gi to be the derived subgroup of Gi minus 1. Okay. Now it's well known that G is solvable if and only if there exists some n such that Gn is the trivial subgroup. Well, this is actually an equivalent definition of a finite solvable group. Okay. Now, the smallest integer n with this property is called the derived length of G. Okay. Now, we're going to make use of this derived length in our proof. Okay. Now, solvable groups with derived length 1 are precisely non-trivial abelian groups. Now, subgroups and quotient groups of solvable groups are also solvable. Okay, these are well-known properties of solvable groups. Now, sorry. Any solvable group G contains a normal abelian subgroup N such that this quotient group has a smaller derived length. Now, this allows us to make induction in our proof. Okay, so we can reduce to a smaller arc-transitive graph, over this quotient group. Okay. Now, of course, nilpotent groups are solvable, as we mentioned already. Okay. Now, here's an outline of the proof. So we can assume that G is faithful on the vertex set of gamma. Now, this means that only the identity element of G can fix every vertex of gamma. Okay. And also, we can assume that the graphs under consideration are connected. If it is a disconnected graph, then we just look at its connected components. Okay. And as I said, we're going to make use of induction. We're going to make induction on the derived length of the underlying solved group G. Okay. Now, if the derived length of G is 1, then G is abelian. And so we have a regular abelian group acting transitively on the vertex set gamma. Now, in this case, gamma is a Keahlian graph, actually. So by this old result, okay, the Keahlian graph contains a 3-flow, okay, and we're done. So this is the starting point of the hypothesis of the induction. Okay. Now we assume that for some n, the result is true for any finitely solved group of derived length n. Now we consider a finite solved group with derived length n plus 1. Okay. Let's consider a connected G arc-transitive graph with degree at least 4 and not divisible by 3. Okay. Now, if the degree of gamma is even, then gamma has a 2-flow, which is also a 3-flow, and we are done. So we can assume that the degree of gamma is at least 5 and is odd. Okay. Now, since G is solvable, as I mentioned a while ago, there exists abelian group, normal abelian group subgroup N, such that the quotient group G over N has derived length N G minus 1, which is N. Okay. Right. Now, if N is transitive on the vertex of gamma, then it must be regular, okay, on V gamma, because N is abelian already. If it's also transitive, then it must be regular. Any transitive abelian group must be regular. Okay. So in this case, again, we obtain a Keahlian graph, okay, which is a Keahlian graph on this normal subgroup N. And we can make use of this old result again. Okay. So in the following, we assume that N is intransitive on V gamma. Okay. Now, since gamma is supposed to be connected, this normal quotient is also connected. And it's also arc-transitive, okay, with respect to the normal quotient N over G. The quotient group N over G. And by a lemma we showed before, this gamma is a multi-cover of the normal quotient, gamma N. Okay. And the degree of this normal quotient is a divisor of the degree of gamma. Okay. Because normal quotient, gamma is a multi-cover of the normal quotient. Okay. Yeah. So basically, the degree of gamma is equal to the degree of this normal quotient times the degree of the bipartite graph between two adjacent blocks of the quotient. Okay. So since the degree of G is not a multiple of 3, the degree of this normal quotient is also not a multiple of 3. Okay. Now, if the degree of this normal quotient is 1, then gamma is a regular bipartite graph of degree n is 2, and therefore gamma n is a free flow. So we assume the degree of this normal quotient is bigger than 1. Okay. And if the degree of the normal quotient is at least 5, okay, and every prime factor of this degree is no less than, so we can assume that this degree is at least 5, not divisible by, and every prime factor of this degree is no less than 5, because it doesn't contain 3. Okay? 3 is not a factor of this degree. So the smallest factor could be 5, okay, or more. Okay. Now this is a solver group, right? Now the derived length is n, okay, which is smaller than n minus 1. So we can make induction hypothesis to this normal quotient. Okay? So this normal quotient admits a free flow. So as long as we have a normal quotient which admits a free flow, then the original graph admits a free flow by a lemma we showed before. Okay? So this is the outline of the proof. But you may wonder why we can't do the same thing for G vertex-transitive but not G arc-transitive graph, where G is solvable. The problem is that if you don't require G arc-transitivity, then you may the blocks of the normal partition may not be independent sets, and therefore you don't get multi-covers. Okay, now this makes things more difficult. Okay. Now, last year we proved a partial result on solvable vertex-transitive graphs. Okay. Now, instead of solvable groups, we look at the nilpotent groups. Okay. So we prove that as long as you have a nilpotent subgroup of the autonomous group of the graph, which is transitive on the vertex set, then the graph has a free flow. Okay, so this is what we proved. Okay, yeah. So every nilpotently vertex-transitive graph of degree n is 4 and is a free flow. Okay, yeah. By a nilpotently vertex-transitive graph, we mean a graph whose autonomous group contains a nilpotent subgroup, which is transitive on the vertex set. Okay. Now, in my problem a while ago, we want to understand whether any solvable vertex-transitive graph admits a free flow. We can't prove that, but we can prove this weaker result. Okay, it's weaker because the opposing groups are solvable. Okay. Now, well, these are some simple observations. By a parity subgraph of a graph gamma, we mean a spanning subgraph sigma, such that the degrees of every vertex in this subgraph and in the mother graph have the same parity. Okay? Either both of them are even or both of them are odd. Okay? So it's easy to say that every graph is the edge to join union of any parity subgraph and an even spanning subgraph, right? If you just delete all edges of a parity subgraph, you obtain an even spanning subgraph. But even graphs admit two flows. So you can just ignore even subgraphs. Okay. Now this means that as long as you can find a parity subgraph which admits a three flow, then the whole graph admits a three flow. Okay. Now we also use a central evolution in a nilpotent group. Okay. By evolution of a group we mean element of order 2, of course. Now, if this evolution is commutable with every element in the group, then is in the center, and therefore is a central evolution. Okay. Now we prove this lemma. Suppose you have a connected cubic K graph such that the connecting set S contains a central evolution of G. Then this K graph has it must be a closed ladder, or any closed ladder is cubic, of course. Okay, so in this particular case, this K graph must be a closed ladder. Now we also use a number of other lemmas, including this one. So this lemma says that if gamma is a graph such that every vector is of odd degree, if you can find a perfect matching M and 2H to join two factors A and B such that in A union M and B union M, every connected component is a closed ladder whose round set is contained in the perfect matching M, then gamma admits a three flow. Okay. It is a pure combinatorial result without involving any group theory. Okay. But it's very useful for us. Okay. So here's the outline of our proof. Okay, so let's consider a nilpotent universal transitive multigraph gamma with degree at least 4. We're going to use induction on the order of gamma, and we aim to prove the statement that gamma admits a three flow. Now this statement is true if gamma has order 2. Of course, if you have only 2 vertices, it must be true. So in following, we assume that gamma has at least 3 vertices, and the statement is true for all nilpotent vertex-transitive multigraphs of order less than the order of gamma. Now, without loss of generality, we can assume that gamma is connected. Okay. Now, the first trick is to take a nilpotent subgroup of alt gamma with minimal order, okay, which is transitive on the vertex of gamma. Now, since we assume gamma is nilpotently vertex-transitive, you can always find a subgroup of alt gamma which is nilpotent and is transitive on V gamma. Now, among such subgroups, we take one with minimal order. Okay, this is very important for us. And then we can prove that G is faithful on the vertex of gamma. Now we can assume that gamma has odd order. Otherwise, the result is true. Now, since gamma has odd degree, we assume that gamma has odd degree, then the order of gamma is even. Okay. Now, since gamma is G vertex-transitive, its order is a divisor of the order of G. Okay. And then the order of G must be even, since the order of gamma is even. So we can take a non-trivial non-trivial C-log 2 subgroup of G. Okay. Now, this implies that the center of this C-log 2 subgroup of G is contained in the center of G. Okay. But a non-trivial 2 group has a non-trivial center. So this means that we can have a central evolution in G. Okay, this is also important for us. This central evolution, of course, induces a normal subgroup G. Now we're going to take quotient of G over this normal subgroup. Okay, and we can easily prove that this normal subgroup is semi-regular on the vertex set of gamma. Okay. Now the proof is quite technical. Probably I shouldn't go through this outline. It is a little bit tedious. Okay. So basically, we decompose gamma into 2 or 3 spanning subgraphs according to properties of our group G and the subgroup induced by lambda. Okay? And then we reduce to the case when you have a parity subgroup, a parity subgraph, which admits a 3-flow, or we reduce to a smaller Neapolitan vertex-transitive graph. Okay. In the second case, we can apply our induction. Okay, this is the main idea. Okay. So I'm going to skip all this. Now this should be my second last slide. So very recently, Zhou and Zhou proved these two results about vertex-transitive graphs. Okay. The first result says that if gamma is a graph with order 2p, where p is prime and degree is 4, p is odd prime, sorry. And if the outermost group gamma has a subgroup which is sharply transitive on the vertex set gamma and contains a central evolution, then gamma admits a 3-flow. So again, this is a special family of vertex-transitive graphs, okay, for which Carter 3 conjecture holds. Okay. Now this is another special family of vertex-transitive graphs. Okay. This time they require the outermost group of gamma to contain a subgroup which is transitive on the vertex set and is the direct product of a 2 subgroup and the subgroup of order. Okay. Now in this case, gamma is a 3-flow. Okay. I think I'm running over time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Sanming. It's very nice talk, very inspiring. But before we move to the question and answer session, I will give the screen back to Pak Edi.
Okay. Thank you, Reno. So we will present you some music. Yeah. While we are collecting a question from the audience. So this music is Angklung performance played by ITB students. So our student play this music. And the title of the song is Manuk Dadali. Manuk Dadali means Garuda, burung Garuda. Yeah. So this is a national emblem. Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Back to Rino.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Edi. Very nice music. It's a traditional song from our area here in Bandung. So hopefully that will inspire you to ask questions to Sanming. So we already have one question, Sanming. It's in the chat.
Yes, I saw it already.
It's from Rian Febrian Umbara. So is it possible to expand this research to another graph of group, such as non-commuting graph?
Non-commuting. What's a non-commuting graph?
Rian, are you here? Rian,
Yes.
maybe you can
Yes.
explain more about your.
Non-commutating graph is a group of graph. The vertex is the elements of the group, and two vertices are adjacent if the elements commute. Non-commute. Yeah.
Okay, so you start with a finite group.
Yes.
And you define a graph on the finite group in such a way that as long as two elements don't commute, you draw H, right?
Yes. Yeah. And they are adjacent if non-commute.
Yeah, of course. In theory, we could consider non-commuting graphs as long as the minimum the H connectivity is at least 4, right? The part of the result, part of 3 flow conjecture just requires the graph to be 3 H connected, right? So for any graph, as with H connectivity at least 4, you can consider part of conjecture. But I don't know whether we have some good tools to use for non-commuting graphs. Yeah, for Keahlian graphs or vertex-transitive graphs, we normally make induction. We take quotient, using some normal subgroup. Okay, that's a basic technique in our proof. But for non-commuting graphs, if you take quotient with respect to some normal subgroup, can you get some nice graph over the quotient? I don't know.
Okay, so maybe Rian can try to, to find like a tree flow in that non-commuting graphs. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sir.
Okay. Thank you, Sanming, for the answer, and thank you, Rian. I see Pak Saladin has raised his hand. Yeah, Pak Saladin.
Okay.
Silakan.
Good afternoon, Professor Zhou. Thank you very much. Yeah. As it's known for the nowhere zero 5 flow problem and also cycle double cover problem, we can limit the problem to bridgeless cubic graph. It means that if a property applies to bridgeless cubic graph, this property also applies to bridgeless graph. Is it true? Yeah. My question is, will this also apply to the nowhere zero 3 flow problems? Okay. Can we limit the problem to cubic graph?
Cubic graphs.
Sorry?
I'm not sure whether I understand your question. So, cubic graphs are not 4H connected, right?
It's not your connectivity is not so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pak Saladin, maybe you can write your question
Okay. Yeah.
in the chat and we will read it. Okay.
I think I don't understand your question.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I think the question is about the five-flow conjecture for
Five-flow conjecture. Oh,
And
okay.
the
also
five-flow that
cycle
that can
cover.
be reduced into
Yeah, because
bridgeless
we can
cubic
limit
graph.
the problem to the cubic graph. Yeah, it's mean that if we can prove the conjecture in cubic graph, it's also it's mean that we can prove cycle double cover and also five flow conjecture. Is
Okay.
it the same situation in three flow, nowhere zero three flow? Okay, I will write my question.
Thank you.
Five flows. Okay. You get cubic graph, five flow, but a five flow may not be a three flow. I don't know how you can relate a five flow to a three flow. Okay.
Okay, so maybe we can move to another question from the chat, Sanming, before you can answer Saladin's question. There is a question from Professor Nengah Suparta from Bali. It seems that three-flow graphs become central issue of your talk. Is there any application reason behind it?
Well, I think that the initial motivation for Hart to propose this conjectures, was a graph colorings, of course, okay, phase colorings of planar graphs, okay, okay. Apart from that, I don't know any practical application of integer flows. Yeah, but in combinatorial organization, we also consider flow problems. But in that case, we don't require flow values to be integers, of course, and we maximize the flow value over the network. But that's a different problem.
Yeah, Prof. Nengah?
Yeah,
Do you have any follow-up question? Yeah.
No, it's okay because my background is far away from. I just want.
Okay.
I am just wondering whether there is a specific application reason behind it. Thank you so much, Prof. Zhou.
Thank you for listening. Yeah. So I'm reading another question. Whether the problem of K-flow is nice as labelings on direct graphs. In addition, is there any reason why the problem starts to be restricted to paragraph? Oh yeah, well, yeah, the original conjecture was for general graphs, of course. Yeah, we just, since we can't prove the three-flow conjecture, for all 4H Connect graphs, people try to prove it for various families of graphs. From my background, K graphs are and vertex-transitive graphs are natural choices. Okay. And also the techniques used are quite interesting for me because we combine tools from group theory and contours as well. So it's a mixture of tools from two different eras, and this makes it interesting to me.
Okay, so that's the answer for Fawaz Hadiputra question. Yeah, so Fawaz, is it clear for you, or do you have any follow-up question?
Another question, K-flow, nice labelings on direct graphs.
Yeah, this is the question from Prof. Eddie. Do you think it is true, the conjecture? How far more to go to prove the conjecture?
Ready to go. Yeah, I started this project more than 10 years ago when I colleague in Wuhan, who is an expert in this area. And then during our conversation, we came up with this project, vertex-transitive graphs. Yeah, at the beginning, we were quite ambitious. I mean, we wanted to solve part of three-flow conjecture for vertex-transitive graphs. And then we realized that it's really, really difficult. Okay? But we managed to achieve some partial results. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Next question.
Okay, so this is the question from before, Sanming. So it is known that the nowhere zero five flow problems, we can limit the problem to bridgeless cubic graphs. It means that if property applies to bridgeless cubic graph, this property also apply to bridgeless graph. Will this also apply to the nowhere zero three flow problem?
I don't think so. Okay, if you just require the graph to have low bridges, you basically require the graph to be 2H connected, right? But connectivity is not enough. We need the graph to be 4H connected for the three-flow conjecture.
Okay.
Okay, so is it clear for you, Pak Saladin?
Yes, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other question? You can raise your hand. Okay, if there is no more question, let's give an applause for Sanming Zhou. Thank you for a very nice talk in the Combinatorics Today Series today.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your attention. Yeah, it's really nice to see you.
Okay, but before you go.
Yeah, before we close, I think I will give back to Pak Eddie.
So we would like again to thanks to Professor Sanming Zhou for a very nice and wonderful talk today. Yeah, it's a very nice topic. Yeah, to do the research in that topic, and I believe it's very hard. I saw all the proof, and the technique is is far from mine. Okay, so on behalf of our faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, we would like to present you a certificate, Professor Sanming. Let me show you the certificate before I send it through email. Okay, let me see here. Okay, so this is the certificate for the keynote speaker. So again, thank you very much for your kindness and willingness to be our speaker today. And this is a caricature that my students make it for you. So this is again our appreciation, to your kindness. So I will send this document to you, and also together with all these photos today. Okay, so again, thank you, Professor Sanming Zhou. And hopefully next time we can meet each other here, or either here in Bandung or in Melbourne.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will announce that in September, this September, we will organize conference in Bali. Yes, the conference is a joint conference with Japan, with Professor Jin Akiyama. Yeah.
Okay.
And this conference will be on discrete and computational geometry, graph, and games. So if everyone here interested to come, please, we are very welcome. Yeah. And
Yes.
Dr. Rinovia is the chairman of this conference.
That'll be very nice. Yeah, September, right?
Yes, September. What the date?
23rd
23rd until
25th. Yeah, 25.
Okay.
So it's Friday,
Monday.
Saturday, and Sunday.
Yes.
That's very interesting. I'm definitely interested in this conference because in the second semester I don't teach, so I'm going to teach 2 subjects in first semester.
Okay.
Second half of the year I'm not going to teach, so I have freedom to attend the conference.
That's good. So I will send you the announcement, and also for the others participants, I will send you the announcement.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your information.
Okay. So
Okay.
so then now we end this event today. Thank you again to everybody here, and especially to Professor Zhou and also Professor Brandon Mackey, sorry. Yeah, Brandon. Brandon is there. Yeah. Hello, Brandon.
Brandon still here?
Yeah. Brandon still there. Yeah. Terima kasih, Pak Brandon.
Hi, Eddie.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Brandon. Oh, sorry. I thought you have not. Hi, Brandon. Nice to see you here.
Nice talk, Sanming.
I didn't see your name, so I thought you have gone.
Okay. So thanks a lot, Brandon, for coming.
No
Yeah.
problem. It was good.
And probably
See you next time.
See you next time, next month.
Okay.
We will have another
See you next month.
edition.
See you
Okay.
in Bali
Bye-bye from now.
Okay, thank you, Eddie.
Yes.
Thank you, Sanming.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Oh.